and thank you, Karen. It's a privilege to follow Karen and the United Nations organization and U.S. section of the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom has been supporting our colleagues and partners in working groups and civil society who have been working on this UN Security Council 1325, which, as Karen said, has passed the United Nations and now is finally being recognized in many countries around the world. And the United States now is getting on board with our national action plan. So the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom has been working on this, and we did present, I think last July when Tanya Henderson, our director, was here, she presented our WILPF statement on 1325, and there are copies. Lucinda, if you want to send, there are just a few. And again, we would be happy to have your organization to endorse this copy. We are concerned that this national action plan support domestic women as well as women abroad. And you may ask, how is it that the women in the United States are suffering from militarism and war and violence? And we are very fortunate, but we do know that we have a bloated military budget. We have many families who are suffering because their loved ones are at war. And so we are wanting to support domestic women as well as women abroad. To accomplish these, the creation and distribution of our policy paper has been important to us, and we are pleased that it has been endorsed by Ambassador Anwar Chaudhry, the former Undersecretary General and High Representative of the United Nations, by Congresswoman Eddie Bernice Johnson, Women's Action for New Directions, Betty Reardon and the Center for Global Leadership, the U.S. Human Rights Network, the Boston Consortium of Gender, Security, and Human Rights, the Center for Women's Global Leadership, Global Network of Women, and Peace Builders and Feminist Peace Work. So if this paper is passed around, if any of you would like to endorse that, we would be glad to have you come along with us. WILPF has sought to try to get grassroots women involved in the National Action Plan. And so we organized 5 consultations across the nation with Susan Braden, who was a senior policy advisor of the Office of Global Women's Issues at the U.S. State Department. And women from all backgrounds came to 5 different cities. They came to Milwaukee, Detroit, San Diego, Portland, Oregon, and Boston, collectively including over 400 women, and met with Susan Braden and talked about what they feel is important for peace and security, for women, peace, and security. There is a copy, again, Lucinda, I'll pass it around a little later, of the summary of the results of these 5 consultations. And these women were really thinking about what does it mean to have peace and security. And they sat down with our friend from the State Department and had input. And what we hope to do with the final copy of the summary is to come up with a voter's guide for women on women, peace, and security for the elections in 2012. To keep the momentum going, our local branches are being involved. And I think Tanya spoke about whistleblowing, the whistleblower movie back in July, okay, which involved women in Bosnia who were being raped during the war there, and the woman who was a peacekeeper with UN forces saw this happening and blew the whistle on that. And so we have been encouraging people women wherever they are and see women being exploited, to blow the whistle. And so as part of this year's program, we are actually going to be having women all over the United States having demonstrations, blowing whistles to call attention to what's happening to women during violence and militarism. I would like just to explain what we call militarism. And I think a lot of people think we're against military, women in the military. And that is not true. We are against militarism that creates a culture of fear instead of a culture of hope, and exploits people during war and violence. So WILPF members throughout the country will be getting in demonstrations at the local municipalities and their occupied cities, and we'll be organizing to blow the whistle on the violence against women that has been happening. And then we are also going to be recognizing the violence against women during the period of November 25th to December 10th. And some of you will recognize that's the United Nations International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. It's November the 25th in recognition of the murder of the Mirabal sisters in the Dominican Republic when they were so courageous in their opposition to the dictator. And then it will last for 16 days to December 10th, which is UN International Human Rights Day. And so we will be having these demonstrations and programs for these 16 days as our WILPF's way of supporting the work of the UN Security Council Resolution 1325. And if you have more questions, I don't know if you can all see this, but Tanya Henderson is our national director. Here's our telephone number, and the email is very simple. It's thenderson@wilpf.org, and she would be glad to support you with more information or more materials on how you too can blow the whistle on violence against women during the 16 days between November 25th and December 10th. Thank you.